Stand by for action.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We are about to launch.
Welcome to our show tonight. We are very excited. We've got some new artists tonight. We've got a number of things that we'd love to share. Of course. Hello, Art.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. You know, it's always good to see you, Art.
Of course it is. I always get that impression from you that you're so happy to see me.
Yeah. I enjoy your company so much.
You have no choice about having me for company. I live in your head.
Well, and this is true, but let's talk. You know, I kind of really did enjoy your company.
You did?
I did. When we went to the Fry Museum
in
Seattle a couple weeks ago.
Right, as if I have a choice of going to the Fry Museum.
Well, but it was fun nonetheless. So
well, I'm glad you had fun. I too had the fun looking at some beautiful art at the Fry Museum.
Being the artist that you are, I would have thought that you would have enjoyed it.
I did. We.
But there were a number of favorites that I had, and it always makes me feel real good to go to a museum and see the beautiful works of art.
Yes.
You know, and I have to apologize because, you know, I went and I looked at the art and I was under a schedule and I didn't get the artists' names.
What?
Right.
Wait! You did not get the artists' names?
You know.
This is so typical of the art collector Dean Cameron. He loves the art, but he doesn't bother to find out the artist's name.
Well, if the artist could sign it legibly.
Oh, I suppose you accuse them of being the doctor at the pharmacy.
Yeah, that's right. It's a blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah yourself. Write down the names.
But anyhow, some of the art that I really enjoyed.
Yes.
There was one, this scene in particular. This is beautiful, tranquil.
The Lake Coeur d'Alene is another French word I like to say. Coeur d'Alene.
That is not Lake Coeur d'Alene.
It certainly is. Look at the boat.
Okay.
Look out there. See, underwater?
I can
It is one
imagine
of
myself.
those wooden Agadon boats.
Oh, art.
Yes.
Let's move on to picture number 2. There's a harbor scene.
Lake Coeur d'Alene.
It's sunset.
This is a French word.
Boy, are you stuck
I like
on
French.
Lake
I speak
Coeur
in the
d'Alene?
French language in my imagination of yours.
Yeah.
I'm outrageous that way.
Champlain, maybe, huh?
I like this. Is this your boat, Dean? Do you have this boat?
Yes, that's one of...
Is this your rowboat?
That is one of my boats, actually.
Lovely.
So, anyhow, you know, that was a beautiful image. But the next image evoked a lot of passion in me.
Yeah!
It was this stable with these horses.
This is terrible painting.
Trying to
Who
get out
paints
of...
these? This at the Fry Museum. You're frying the horses. This is awful. What a terrible painting. Oh, how happy. Yeah, we look at the dead horse. Oh, happy day. Dean.
Thank you, Art.
Please. Something happy.
All right. Well, let's move on to the last one, Art. This one here evokes contemplation.
What in the name?
Why is the woman being crucified smiling? Why does she look like she's in ecstasy with such a terrible, terrible thing? And then who's this dude at her feet?
You're a fantastically warped individual. You know this, Dean?
Yeah, well...
You're strange in your head.
Yeah?
Why did they make that Jesus is a woman here?
Well, you know, that's all about the artist interpretation.
I am not comfortable.
Do you ever...
Does not make me feel comfortable.
Do you ever paint something that is your interpretation?
Like what? The flowers?
Yeah.
The
if your flowers look like a brick?
Yeah. What if my women look like a flower?
Yeah, okay.
This is good, yeah.
Okay, Art, you're going down.
Wait, no, we just got here. I started to look at your stuff.
Path.
I go down memory lane with the Fry Museum with you, and you make me go now?
Maybe someday we'll go to the Museum of Modern Art. That ought to be an
I am the modern
time.
art. You do not talk of other modern
Okay, goodbye, Art.
Wait.
Nah, see you later.
I'm Ildiko Kolapaj. I'm a Hungarian-American visual artist. I'm from Spokane, and I'm on Flootie TV. Thank you.
Welcome back to Flootie TV. We are excited. We have a couple of exceptional artists today. I'm very happy to introduce our first artist today. Dean Huggins has shown in numerous galleries as well as being published in several magazines. His experiences led him to be called upon as a judge in numerous competitions. He is currently president of the Inland Outlook Photography Club and a member of the Professional Photographers of Washington. His passion is landscape and scenic images, as well as macro photography. Please welcome photographer Dean Huggins. Hi, Dean. How are you?
Good, Dean. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Nice name, by the way.
Thank you. Have a seat.
Thank you.
So, we should tell our audience that you and I actually have a long history. We've known each other for a good number of years.
Yes, we have.
And I have to say that probably the first 3 years that we knew each other, I didn't know you were a photographer.
Not many people do, because I don't always just come right out and say, hey, I'm Dean Huggins and I'm a photographer. You know?
Well, I'm very glad to, over the last couple of years, I've been exposed to a lot of your work, and I'm a big fan of landscapes, and especially a lot of the wilderness type stuff. You know, you've done a lot of shots in lake scenes and mountains and so forth, and I just absolutely love that type of work. A little bit about, one of the things that I'm curious about as a photographer, what inspires you? Do you go with the intent of shooting something, or is it something that's a spontaneous thing, or can you elaborate on what, kind of how you get the images that you do?
Well, I think for most of us photographers, we tend to say, okay, I want to get a great image of Hidden Lake and Bear Hat Mountain up on Logan Pass in Glacier National Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we go out with that intention, and we get up in the morning, we go up there, and guess what? It's fogged in. You're not going to get the image that you envisioned that you wanted to get. You saw somebody else's work, you looked at other images online, it's like, I have got to go there, I have got to shoot this, I've got to capture my interpretation of what this is going to look like. And you get there and you have fog, or you have rain, or something else. That makes you change your plans.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly you think, well, maybe I'll go down to the river and see what's down there. And more times than not, I end up changing the plans on what I've done, but I don't give up. I've probably been to Glacier National Park probably about 20 times in the last 8 to 10 years. And I keep going back because I don't always get what I want the first time, the second time, third, fourth, or fifth time. But while I'm there, I maximize my time there by shooting other images of other things, waterfalls, maybe some people standing by a lake, a canoer, maybe some early morning sunrises, things like that.
So it starts out as a plan.
It does.
And then it evolves.
More often than not.
So some of your best shots, or were they what you had planned, or what?
No.
They're the spontaneous ones.
There's some vision that has to happen, and I think this happens with all artists. An artist, before they start to do a painting, for instance. My mom was a painter, my aunt was a painter, my daughter's an artist. We got a lot of art people in the family. First, you have to envision something on the canvas. You don't just sit down and your hand goes up and it starts painting a bird. You have to have the intention first of, I saw that bluebird last summer, and I have got to get that image on canvas. I just have to do it. And, it starts there in the imagination. That's where art really starts. And that's what we're actually trying to do, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Is spark emotion and build people's imagination with our images, and give them pleasure to look at beauty and whatnot.
Well, absolutely. And speaking of imagination, along with just, the wonderful photography, the scenic photography you do. You do a lot with programs in creating fine art with photography as a basis. And on the easel today, we have a shot here. You want to kind of fill us in a little bit, explain what we're looking at here today, Dean?
Well, before I do that, let me go back a little bit in time,
okay,
and talk to you a little bit about how I got to this point of doing this.
Sure.
Okay, a little background. There is some argument out there in the art world as to whether photographers are actually artists or not. Okay, in my mind, there's no question for me that I delve into the world of art. My family, since my family is very artistic, I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, when I was young, and I found out about in the 6th or 7th grade that I'm colorblind.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
And so that, I thought, was going to possibly keep me from doing some things in my life, and sure enough, it kept me out of the Navy. I couldn't go in the Navy. But I always had this art side of me. When I was in high school, I took an art class in high school with a bunch of other students, and our assignment for that class was we were painting this tree in this scene, like a desert scene with a sunset and whatnot, and this silhouette of this tree coming out all black, on the canvas. And it turns out that when we got all done at the end of the semester, that mine was the #1 image.
Wow.
And I've had this experience more than once. I took a watercolor class up north from a local gal, and I can't remember her name, sorry. But I sat down in her watercolor class and started doing painting, just following the instructions and doing what came natural. And by the time it was over, the comment she made is like, "You made the best image in the class. You made the best work of art in the class."
So you tie that in with the color blindness?
Well, I mentioned that because a lot of people find it very intriguing. I'm also, for work, for a living, I'm an electronics technician and electrician. Went through electronics school.
You want to make sure the red and the black...
Exactly. So there's a lot of logic involved in what I do to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
Sure.
So I have found in my life different ways to get around these difficulties, or handicap, if you will call it that. In some cases, it's actually been beneficial to me where it wouldn't be to somebody who is not colorblind. Okay, so when people ask me about, well, how can you be a photographer and be colorblind? How can you be an electrician and be colorblind? How can you be an electronics technician and be colorblind? And I guess it's like the moth to the flame thing. I rolled up my sleeves and said, this is what I want to do, and I'm not going to let that stand in my way. So along the way, I got married. I had 4 kids, and I was living in a mobile home on a small lot. And I wanted to do art really bad, but I didn't have any room. I mean, every square inch of that mobile home was filled with something. And so there really wasn't room for me to take a whole room and turn it into my art or painting area. So the next best outlet for me that I found was photography. Camera, it's pretty small. Already had a computer. And, well, in those days I started with film, of course.
Sure.
It was quite a few years ago. So I started out with film, and I found out that with these smaller items that I could do my art, and I could realize my visions through my photography. Okay, so when the software world came along and had all these digital manipulation tools, that was like
unleashing
bonanza, baby. Yeah, we have arrived.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of fun making images like this. I have a lot of images similar to this where I take my photographs. This is not somebody else's stuff, and this is not done like from scratch. These are photographs that are very recognizable when they start out, and sometimes they don't turn out very recognizable in the end.
So now you were explaining to me earlier what this image is, and I mean, like you say, the first person to look at this is going to, it's intriguing, the color and the flow of lines and everything else, very intriguing. But explain what this is actually created from.
Well, this is a horse, and that was the Empire State Building, and this was a comet coming. Okay, I'm being facetious. It's image down at the river, down at Riverfront Park. I went down by the river's edge, and the flow down through here is actually waterfall.
Okay.
That's coming down into the river. In the foreground here, we have the ground. And this was a bush that was growing up in the foreground here.
Wow.
And when I took the image and looked at it at home, I was like, this is not working. As photographers, we find out later, we have a vision when we look through our camera lens, and sometimes, many times later, we open it up in our digital workflow, and we find that, this is not happening. Delete, delete. So we do a lot of deleting until we get to this, oh, this has potential. Well, this is one that I almost deleted, and I thought, you know, I'm just going to leave it for now. I came back to it later. I looked at it again, and I said, you know what? I wonder if I could, I might be able to do some digital manipulation on this image and really come up with something that's interesting.
Well, that's absolutely, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, Dean. And again, I really, really love the work that you do. We got to take a break, and we'll come back here in just a minute. We'll be back in just a minute with Russ DeVerniero.
Bonjour, mes amis, desired for me. I have a question for you. Where am I? Am I wet? Am I dry? Am I in the desert? Am I in the ocean? Nobody knows. Maybe you do.
like, wow, man, that was so far out. That just has me tripping. Hey, Yanni, do me a favor. Let me know when we're back on camera, okay?
You are on camera, Dean.
What? We're on camera?
Now.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, oh, excuse me. Oh, hey. Hi. Welcome back to Flootie TV. We're ready to introduce our next artist. Russ is an award-winning international artist, painter, and woodcarver. His artwork is in corporate and private collections throughout the United States, Canada, Europe, Central America, and the Far East. His Chinese-style landscape paintings have received national and international attention and acclaim. He was a pioneer in the field of computer art and photography, helping to design and create many of the tools used today. He is a published author with Microsoft Press. His Nouveau Tribali style of drawing, painting, and carving is creating a new chapter for Native and Indigenous art. Welcome, Russ DeVerniero. Hi, Russ.
Hi, Dean. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Good to see you.
You like my little flashback there?
I did, yeah. Yeah, it took me back.
It took me back. Well, you know, there was a day. There was a day. It isn't anymore, but there was a day.
Yep.
So welcome to Flootie TV, Russ.
Thank
We're
you.
excited to have you. You know, you're a Flootie artist, and I have to say I'm absolutely amazed at the diversity of your artwork. Your carvings are spectacular. Your paintings go from this Nouveau Tribali to, you know, I guess, am I okay calling it abstract expressionism?
Abstract.
Uh-huh.
Traditional Chinese landscape.
And the Chinese landscape, and then you blend some of the different styles together.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so, what brings you to that? I mean, you know, a lot of artists will find a style and they'll work on that style, and it seems kind of difficult for them to go to something as different as, you know, I see in your mix.
Well, I started off as a cowboy artist.
Uh-huh.
When I was 10 years old, my first art teacher was a fellow by the name of J.K. Ralston, who was one of the 3 original cowboy artists, contemporary of Charlie Russell's and Frederick Remington's. And then I got a degree in traditional Chinese painting. And then I started studying native carving. And because I come from a native background, I think the native art probably resonated better with me than a lot of the other stuff did. And I think that's where the blending comes from, because I believe that art has a message and a purpose, and that if we can span the cultures, people can see the diversity that's really there.
That's very intriguing, and you know, on the easel today, we have this Nouveau Tribali. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
Nouveau Tribali is an Italian word for new tribal.
Uh-huh.
When I was getting my degrees in fine art, I studied indigenous art from America to Alaska to the Philippines and Polynesian styles, all the way down to Australia and New Zealand. And I found a lot of integrated and similar traditions that existed, and the art of the indigenous people is done with a purpose and a message, and it carries symbolism with it and spirituality with it, and it's integrated into the culture. And I wanted to bring that integration and the diversity to the non-native people so that they can see how truly amazing indigenous art really is.
It is, and you know, we were speaking a little bit before the show today, you know, and you know, and when I'm looking at this piece right here, I can see some of the Chinese influence in the painting, and the tribal influence, obviously. But we were talking about the details in a lot of the tribal art, and I was asking you about the different patterns that we see in there. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit about that for us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. First off, the kingfisher is a bird that represents abundance, prosperity, and peace. The blue colors are the colors of the Archangel Michael. Or Ariel, one of the two, I'm not sure anymore. But integrated into that, for example, in the bill we have a frog. The frog represents the ability to move from two different environments, transition from a water environment to a land environment and back again, which means that they're able to transform. They are water, they have gills when they're born, and yet as they get rid of that, they become air breathers. And so it's about the ability to transform our lives, to move from one aspect of our life into a new aspect of our life. The kingfisher represents abundance and good health and prosperity, so therefore the image stands for bringing that into your life, bringing new energy, new vitality, new breadth and width and depth into your life. Integrated into that, for example, like in this wing design here, this is a Polynesian style. It's called a shark's teeth. And it's not about the viciousness. Shark represents protection in the Polynesian culture. And the overall design is actually North Coast, Pacific Northwest coastal style, northern style, which would be Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian, and that northern region of the Pacific Northwest. So you see that in the wing design, the feet, the eye.
I notice in a lot of your paintings, and you you mentioned Ariel. There's a painting that you did of a person,
right.
Ariel, where there's a lot of that symbolism in the clothing and everything else, and that's wonderful to be able to, to study that and to understand that. Obviously for me, I would have to learn what you're describing, but to be able to see that in the art and to be able to see that message is an amazing thing.
Well, all of my pieces have a narrative that goes with them that describes what's going on in the piece, what the symbolism means, and it helps the people relate to it. People are drawn to art on a visual thing first, and then they start looking in depth into what's going on. I think you've seen that too.
Oh yes,
that
very much so.
That they're intrigued by either the color or the movement that's going on, but then as they start looking at it, they become more involved with it. And my narratives help them understand what's being involved. For example, this is on a ponderosa pine, a Pacific Northwest tree which grows to incredible heights. And in native culture, the ponderosa represents being able to rise above, to stand above the rest, to reach to the heavens, kind of a thing. And so I wanted to bring that in. And if you noticed, on the ponderosa pine, the groups of needles are 3. Well, 3 is a sacred number. For example, a white pine is 5, which is also a sacred number. So all of these things have reference to something higher than ourselves, something beyond ourselves. And I was noticing on Dean's piece earlier when you were looking at your work, that the color and movement is one thing, but there's also counter movement that's going on in there. For example, when the flow of the water is one thing, but the weed that was by the water, it goes in another different direction.
Yeah.
And all of that, becomes symbolic to people in one way or another.
Well, I notice you have a pine cone
Yes.
in this particular image, which you didn't have to put in there, but I'm guessing that you had a specific reason for the placement of it, where it was at, and
Yes.
maybe there's some symbology there too.
Well, the pine cone represents new life. And only after extreme hardship with a pine tree does that new life take place, i.e. a fire or some disaster of some kind that forces that pine cone to release the seeds so that they can go and start over again.
Wow. It's a testimony to the power of artwork. And to me, it's just absolutely amazing. It's what drives the passion in me to collect art is what you guys do to create it, what goes into it, the thought and the passion and the symbolism and the power. Because if you take the time to study it and understand what the artist is saying, it's life-changing for the people that are gifted to be able to see it and understand it. Gentlemen, I really appreciate your time today. It's wonderful to have you on the show. I have to say, before we leave, just recently, the Friends of Flootie have awarded us with an award called a Mikey. And I just want to say thank you to those who have gifted us with this wonderful award, the Mikey.
Far out, man.
There you
Far
go.
out, dude. Thanks a lot, folks. We look forward to seeing you next time on Flootie TV.